It's an early summer morning and we are heading to some empty curvy roads to drive and feel the new BMW i7, the electric model of what the 7 Series has become nowadays. Yes, 7 Series is a core model for BMW, with 6 generations launched before this one, the 7th, in a time frame of 45 years. And there were some generations that made their way into the hearts and souls of the fans. I somehow remember the E38 generation the most, but you may love and remember other ones. Let me know in the comments below which one is it. But it is absolutely clear that there is a huge heritage to match and level up to when launching a new 7 Series. That is why when BMW primarily announced that in the European Union they would sell only electric i7 and get rid of the diesel and gasoline engines, it sounded like a shock to many. They have internal combustion engines versions sold outside of the EU, and now they even have plug-in hybrids sold in EU. But anyway, that intention meant that the electric i7 would have to be so good that it would be sufficient to replace all the ICE engines entirely in some regions of the world, and then all around the globe. So today we have to find answers for two main questions: how good of an electric car this BMW is, and how good of a 7 Series it is while being electric. If it is to describe the design of the car in one phrase, it would be that it is ugly in details, like this lower headlight and this huge grille, but it is awesome in proportions. Yes, you have to zoom out a bit to look at the big picture, at the essentials, to find it pretty. What's interesting at the BMW i7 is that there are no standard and long wheelbase versions anymore. It's just one version, and its dimension would qualify it as a long wheelbase model. And that's because it has a huge length of 5.39 meters, which is 212 inches, and its wheelbase is 3 meters, 21 centimeters, or 127 inches. Why such a long wheelbase? To make space for the huge battery underneath, of course. We have an i7 xDrive 60 here, which hosts a battery of 105.7 kilowatt-hour gross capacity and 101.7 kilowatt-hour net capacity. We don't know how much the battery weighs, but we know that this BMW i7 weighs 565 kilograms more, or 1,245 pounds more than the same generation with a gasoline engine. The whole car, at its size, has an empty weight of 2,715 kilograms, or almost 6,000 pounds. By the way, although BMW i7 is a new electric model on the market, its battery doesn't operate at 800 volts technology, but at 376.4, which is almost 400 volts, of course. We have detailed in another video with ABC of electric car parameters why that is important. But basically, it doesn't allow fast charging at 350 kilowatts, but only at 195 kilowatts in this case. Charging time should be here of about 34 minutes to 80%, or about 50 minutes to almost 100%. Quite good. But from a top-of-the-range model, from a premium manufacturer, you would expect that quite good isn't enough. You would expect utmost, fastest and the latest battery technology. Okay, if we speak about a top-of-the-range model, a luxury limousine in fact, let us explore a bit more the interior of the i7. Which door should I open first? Rear or front? Well, let's start with the rear. have enormous space here. I have extended support for my legs. I have massage. I have full control of climate and audio systems here through this nice little display, which reminds me of a smartphone. I have full control over the front seat. I have some USB-C ports here and wireless charging in case I want to work a bit more during a trip while being chauffeured. Wait, what? Being chauffeured in a BMW? You should drive the BMW you own. It is not a Rolls-Royce. Or it actually kind of is, because the underpinnings of this BMW will serve as a basis for Rolls-Royce Spectre electric model, so maybe I should try a bit more the feeling of sitting in the rear presidential seat of this BMW. And you know, when I'm saying presidential seat, I mean it literally. This very same car has just been transporting some of the almost 50 presidents and prime ministers attending at the European Political Community Summit taking place in Moldova. So this BMW i7, the very same car I'm sitting in, has just been chauffeuring European presidents just 2 days ago. So it can be for sure a luxury limousine from the rear seat perspective if you are just not allowed to drive. But I am allowed, so I would rather move into the front seat. You see, BMW engineers were so thoughtful of the driver that while the rear passenger pushes the right seat ahead because he can, I'm being notified of a possible obstruction for the rear view mirror, and the seat finally arrives in a position that leaves me a visual contact with the mirror. Quite nice. Well, the general ambience is one of the luxury that tends to reinvent itself. Less chrome, but much more glass. And glass is a good material to create luxury ambience. But when glass surface has too many angles, it would inevitably come to reflect sunlight and shine. So it does sometimes shine too much here as well, giving the impression of an undesired opulence. We have also a combination of glass on the dashboard with light behind it, which sometimes feels more like a display, reproducing lights when turning indicators are activated, for example, and so on. It has a bit of electric touch, I must admit, and it fits the spirit of this electric car. The multimedia system is the one we know from the latest BMW models, starting with the iX. Curved displays, an interface which is said to be much easier, but it basically switched to a lot of icons as in a phone. But they are more conglomerated than in a phone, and it can be tricky to operate sometimes at the beginning. Anyway, after learning it a bit, it is quite a comprehensive system with lots of functions. I have to mention it. This audio system is just gorgeous. Crystal clarity, expression, the entire frequency range. It is a system which deserves to be called not only hi-fi, but high-end. You may have an audio system that costs tens of thousands of euros in your home, and you would still enjoy this system as much in this car. Probably one of the best audio systems Bowers & Wilkins has ever put in a car, and one of the best audio systems ever put in any car. And you see, the fact that this car is electric actually helped the audio system. There were times when sound system manufacturers used to say that it is physically impossible to ensure good sound quality in a car due to its shape, materials that reflect sound like plastic, and that engine noise that covers the silence you would sometimes enjoy with a good audio system. Since the electric motors are quiet and they don't have that background noise, everything else that moves and creates sounds in an electric car had to be re-engineered to match that level of quietness. And now, in this BMW i7, there is almost absolute silence. Noise, vibrations and harshness is reduced to an almost unseen minimum. If a car passes near me, I almost don't hear it, only see it. And the suspension is superbly silent as well. You can see that level of quietness here on this display. So it's 40 and something, up to 50 decibels, which is almost equal to whisper. This suspension is from a Rolls-Royce world. I have test driven before Rolls-Royces, and this feeling of pneumatic carpet that compensates every wheel to keep the car floating in the same horizontal position is from that book. I actually can't believe I'm driving a BMW. But it is an electric BMW, and you probably want to know how powerful it is in acceleration and delivering that insane instant power the modern top-end electric cars are associated with. Well, let's see. Well, yes, it can definitely put the power of its two electric motors on the road. Both motors provide a combined system power of 400 kilowatts or 544 horsepower here, and actually the rear motor is more powerful than the front one, so there is a rear biased feeling here you would expect from a BMW. Acceleration for 0 to 100 kilometers an hour is 4.7 seconds, with a similar time for 0 to 60 miles an hour. And the maximum speed is limited to 240 kilometers an hour or 150 miles an hour, so you would feel okay even on German autobahns with no speed limits. Thus, as an electric car, parameters are good and admirable in straight line. But BMW 7 Series was always about being pleasant to drive and curves, with sharpest moves you would desire. Has the new BMW i7 any of that character left? Well, the car handles quite well, working with its suspension to compensate the forces on outside wheel, but the steering wheel is less informative and you feel the weight of the car. Every wave of the asphalt in a corner is translated into a specific feeling, and you are still confident in your car, but you realize that 2.7 tons is not 1.7 or 1.9, so you have to keep that in mind. So today I would probably beat Jason Statham in a straight line with this car, but not with those stunt sharp moves. Well, the new BMW i7 became less of a driver's car in the classic meaning of that expression. It doesn't keep you as connected to the surface of the road. In fact, it does the opposite by keeping you floating above the asphalt in an air cocoon. But oh boy, it overwhelms you with comfort and quietness. If this car had autonomous driving, it would be a spa on wheels. And it actually has elements of autonomous driving, like keeping a safe distance from the traffic in front automatically and doing regen while slowing down due to that traffic. So the answer to one of the questions, how good of a 7 Series it is that it became less of a 7 Series that would drive in a hairpin style, because it became more of a Rolls-Royce. Now, if that is a bad thing or a good thing, is up to you to decide. But how good of an electric car is it? Let's see some numbers. Yesterday my best consumption was 20.4 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers in a relaxed manner of driving, so it's slightly more than we would expect from a limousine. But I have to remind myself that this is a 5.3 meter long limousine, and if to remember how much actually have once consumed the V12 BMWs, then this is an excellent number. With a battery capacity of little more than 100 kilowatt hour, it means a real-world autonomy of almost 500 kilometers or 310 miles. Or even more if you strive for a more efficient manner of driving. Today my rhythm of driving is much more intense, and I have a consumption of 22 to 25 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers, and that would mean an autonomy of 400 kilometers and a bit more. And when your electric car real-world autonomy is above 400 kilometers, then you start to forget what range anxiety is. So there is a sense of tranquility here as well, that the autonomy is more than enough to get you to the next charging station. Can you drive long trips with this BMW besides driving inside cities? Yes, you can. At 400-500 kilometers autonomy, you will charge only once a day if you drive more relaxed and maybe top up a bit at the hotel at night. And the comfort you get here will stimulate you even more to want to travel long distances with this car. All that happens although BMW designed a platform that is used both on electric i7 and on internal combustion engine versions of the 7 Series. So it is the time to answer to the second question. How good of an electric car BMW i7 is? Well, there is a bit of conservatism in this car, retaining the manufacturer to use the latest 800-volt technology, the most dense batteries, and making use of a platform dedicated only to an electric car. I actually can't see as much carbon fiber being used at the structure here as it was in the previous 7 Series. And it was the case also for BMW i3 and i8. And BMW has actually invented the large-scale production method for carbon fiber. So as an electric car that would overwhelm with one or more striking innovations, it chose to be more calculated and take a safe side with some more proven technology. And everything is well harmonized and put into a package of the greatest comfort and quietness you can find in an electric car. I can't name any single other model that is as comfortable as BMW i7 is. So BMW i7 is not to be bought if you want Tesla Model S plate acceleration, Lucid Air range, Porsche Taycan sportiness, Hyundai Ioniq 6 aerodynamics, or Tesla Model 3 efficiency in consumption. This BMW i7 takes a good chunk of everything I mentioned, puts it together brilliantly, and still has the feature where it leads above all: comfort. That level of supreme floating comfort a luxury limousine is supposed to have. And it is just brilliant at that while being electric. It is a 5 minutes to Rolls-Royce car. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumb up, leave a comment, and subscribe to What Energy channel and set your notification bell so you won't miss our future videos.